I think the jury was very conscientious in the way they deliberated. They came back in and watched video, and I think they made a decision in keeping with what they thought the evidence showed. In a case like this where your client confesses multiple times and makes admissions against interest multiple times, it's a difficult case to defend. So I'm convinced the jury took their time to think through our defenses to make their decision, but bottom line is, if you get confession after confession after confession, crying and telling your daddy you did it, it makes it a difficult case to defend.
Jake, was it the right decision to not present evidence and witness in this case?
Yes, it was. It's based on strategy. We knew that the DA had right around 28 rebuttal witnesses, that there were a lot more statements that my client had made, phone calls that he had made that would be very incriminating, and we felt like if we could cut them off and not have them put on 28 other people talking about our client confessing, that it would be in our benefit.
Did Joseph ever want to testify himself, and what was the decision on that?
We discussed with him his right to testify, and he decided it would not be in his best interest to take the stand. I concur with that decision even now.
What was Joseph's mindset going in today? Did you talk to him beforehand?
Yeah, I talked to him, and he was cautiously optimistic, and he was hoping that maybe he would get a lesser included verdict that would be something he could live with.
Do you feel like that happened, being that he wasn't found guilty of first-degree murder?
Well, he's found guilty of first-degree felony murder. It's the same as premeditated murder. That's one of the things we have to look at. That will merge with the second-degree murder count, and we need to see if there are any appealable issues there. We felt like throughout this trial that we had a lot of reversible errors in the trial, and so he's advised he wants to pursue an appeal. So we'll file a motion for new trial, and then after that, we'll pursue his appeal.
Do you feel like Judge Wolf gave you a fair shake?
I think the judge did what he thought was right. That's the best I can say.
Any word on how the family is doing now? I know that this all just came down in the last 15 minutes, but...
I think the family's okay. I've told them all along to be prepared, that it was an uphill battle. When your client had made the initial confessions and then continued to make phone calls and ride with cops and try to tell them where the body was, write letters and more phone calls from prison, that it was making it extremely difficult to defend his case. But I want to say this, Matt Mitchell on my staff and Drew Taylor, we worked hard on this case. Our investigator Christie worked hard on this case. Ms. Killingsworth is a good investigator, and we did all that we could do and sifted through over 10 terabytes of discovery and pursued the best strategy we could. 2 weeks ago, this would have been a hands-down win for us, but they brought in the sibling in this case to testify, and that made the difference, in my opinion. We've gone 3 years without having a sibling testifying that he saw a murder, but we had that in this trial. That makes it tougher also.
If you could have any do-overs, would you give the same evidence, ask the same questions, anything you'd like over?
No, if you have the hindsight of knowing what the verdict was going to be, then I definitely would have put on more proof. Yeah, I mean, we had an eyewitness in the house that would testify that what Alex said did not happen, that none of that happened, and it was an adult in the household. And so, yeah, in hindsight, we would have gone ahead and put on more proof. But at the time, we thought the best strategy was to cut the DA off so they didn't put on 28 more witnesses, and the jury listened to phone call after phone call, and our client confessing and saying things he shouldn't be saying.
Is there any way you could have stopped that? Confessing and calling?
No. All you can do is advise your client not to talk about the case, advise them that phone calls are being recorded, advise them that letters are being read coming in and out of the prison, and ask him not to do anything else, but that's all you can do. You can't make him not do it. He's got a right to talk, write a letter, talk to people on the phone, he's got a right to do that.
Think we're missing anything, John?
No, I think you've covered it pretty well. I mean, I'm glad the jury took the time to think this through. When they came back to watch the part of the confession, they were looking at the part where we had said you could see where our client moved from denial to ultimately confessing. I still believe that he was coerced into that, and if that were the only statement in this case, we would have been in a better position. But as you know, he made other statements. He even called the TBI and asked him to come to jail and get him, and that made it difficult. Matt Mitchell may be able to answer some questions. I'm retiring as public defender after this year, and he hopes to succeed me as a new public defender. And he gave the final argument in this case, and even though people may have bashed him on social media, I thought he did a good job. Go ahead, Matt.
Uh-oh. Can't listen to social media. Yeah, I'm open for questions.
So this may, go into the appeal process, which could take, a lot more time. If you are elected public defender, where does this case go next?
The next step's going to be the sentencing hearing and arguing whether or not this is a second-degree murder or a first-degree murder. The act of commission of a intentional homicide and then the act of committing aggravated child abuse and someone dying, they don't really work together. So we're going to be looking into that, looking into the possibilities of arguing this was a finding of second-degree murder. And then beyond that, we're going to be appealing this and arguing that there were errors, that there were things that this trial needs to happen again.
What in your mind are those errors?
There were a lot of things that were filed in this case. There were a lot of motions. There are lots of things that are going to be appealed. Too many to go through right now.
Do you think that Joseph knows where Joe Piper is?
I'm not going to comment on that, but I don't think, no.
And I'll ask what I also asked Jake. If you could try, if you had the benefit of hindsight and could try this case again, what would you do differently?
There's a lot of things that go on when you're doing a trial. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made about the evidence and what can and can't come in. If I had to do it all over again, probably would have called his Aunt Joyce. Probably would have let her kind of clear the air about what was said and what wasn't said in the room. He's a smart man.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.